Good morning. Welcome back to another Read Aloud of Hero. Diego and I just got back from a very long walk, so he's a little bit tired today. So if he seems not alive, he is. He's just tired. All right, let's dive back in. There's so much going on in the story. I am very excited to see what happens here. Chapter 18. Kate Paredes considered herself a brave girl. She didn't wander all over the city by herself, but neither was she easily intimidated by it. Her mother, her wonderful mother, Alba, the giver of the best advice in 2 languages, had once told her something she never forgot. If you think you're in the wrong place, you probably are. Kate didn't take silly chances, but that didn't mean she didn't like to test herself occasionally, get out of her comfort zone. The summer before, despite all the kidding she got from Zach, she'd signed up for the outward bound, putting herself out there in the woods of Maine for a couple of weeks, and she liked that more than she thought she would. She would rely on herself to be strong and resourceful and use common sense. From the start, she'd understood that when it came to her and Zach, she was the stronger one. It wasn't as though she thought he was some kind of wimp, just that if one of them was going to lean on the other, Zach was going to be the leaner. But not anymore. Not after what she'd seen today with her own eyes. This wasn't Zach telling her about the old man, about the way he'd gotten back to the city. This time it was right in front of her. The Zach she'd seen at the reservoir, the Zach she'd seen take down 2 men, she didn't know that Zach Harriman. Spins and kicks and jumps, fearlessness, the weird calm, the confident way he took on those guys like he knew he could take them. This Zach, had scared the brave girl. He scared her, and so did this new world of his. The one with the magic in it, with the bad guys who disappeared into thin air, with danger, and Kate somehow knew this wasn't going to be the last violence in it. Kate lay in the dark that night and kept replaying what had happened, a much scarier version of counting sheep. And even when she finally fell asleep, there were nightmares that she would still remember much too vividly in the morning. Nightmares about men disappearing every time she tried to get a look at them, and about someone she felt she could be a friend, but who had the face of a stranger. There's a pause in the story here. Perfect time for coffee. She woke up on Sunday morning. I'm sorry, I didn't get you any. Did you want one? No? Okay. She woke up early on Sunday morning, happy not to be sleeping anymore. She was up before her mother, something that hardly ever happened, and felt like the first person awake in the whole city of New York. She felt trapped in her room, time moving way too slowly. She needed a way to breathe again. So even though it was a few minutes before 6, she decided to get dressed and go out for a walk. Maybe stop at Starbucks, get herself a hot chocolate, extra whipped cream, of course. She put on her absolute favorite ball cap, the Knicks cap that Zach had bought her, and a Parker hoodie. Went down the elevator, past Mitch, one of the weekend doormen, with a big smile and a wave. I'd stop to say morning, Missy, but it's more like the bottom of the night, Mitch said. Where are you off to? I want to be the first person in Manhattan to get a hot chocolate at Starbucks today, she said. Ah, yes, the breakfast of champions. Maybe the Knicks should try some, Kate said, with an extra whipped cream. Sometimes they're about as tough as whipped cream, Mitch said, except for David Lee. Mitch winked at her. Except for him. They'll let him go. They better not. She walked north on Fifth Avenue. She walked north on Fifth Avenue for a while and then cut over to Madison and what she knew would be the first Starbucks she'd come to. Went big today, a venti. The hot chocolate felt comforting. The large cup, solid and warm in her hands. After a few sips, she left, and instead of heading back home, she walked to Fifth Avenue and turned north again. The wall of Central Park was on her left. She told herself she hadn't planned to end up here. Yet Kate knew she was kidding herself. She knew exactly what her destination was from the moment she left her bedroom. She was walking back up to the reservoir, back to where it had happened. Maybe just to see some sign that it had all been real, that it hadn't been part of one long nightmare. She cut into the park past the Metropolitan Museum of Art and made her way up some steps to the running track. The sun still wasn't up yet, but there were already a few stray joggers. She finished her hot chocolate and dropped the cup in a waste bin, all the while waiting for her cell to ring, waiting for her mother to be calling. Silence. She walked until she got the old brick maintenance building. She looked behind her and could see only one jogger, all the way at the far end of the water, coming up the same stairs that she had just climbed a few minutes before. Kate stopped making sure she was in the right spot. She knelt in the grass, Oh, Kate stopped, making sure she was in the right spot. She knelt on the grass, getting up and making a wider circle, thinking that maybe the metal pipe the one guy had been carrying would be around here somewhere. Something she could put in her hand, but there was nothing. Somehow, she knew there wouldn't be. A voice in her head told her to leave, that it was all bigger than her, but Kate ignored it. She closed her eyes and saw it all happening again. Pictured the guy and the knit cap going over the fence as easily as if he were hopping a footstool and then disappearing into the water, not making a ripple or a sound. She had watched him do it. When she turned back around, the other two men had vanished. Could they have just run toward Central Park West while she wasn't looking instead of disappearing completely? No. You came back. I knew you would. In the quiet of the morning, the emptiness of this park. It was as if the words came out of a loudspeaker. Kate screamed, couldn't help it, and whipped her head around. Knit cap, dressed exactly the same. Kate opened her mouth again, ready to scream for help, only this time, nothing came out. He smiled at her, but this wasn't a friendly smile. There was nothing good behind his eyes, nothing good inside of him at all. But what was she thinking? He said, circling her. I mean, coming back here all alone? Stay away from me, Kate said, knowing as soon as she did how pathetic it sounded. She added, What do you want from me? From you? He said, Nothing. I want your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, Kate said. Even here, even like this, there was something that made her want to set the record straight. Right. Why don't you just swim away like you did last time and leave me alone? The brave girl trying one last time to sound brave, even if she wasn't. No, I don't think so, he said, stopping in front of her, leaning down, his face only inches from hers. I think I have other plans. She tried to look past him, down the track, wondering where the jogger had gone. There's no one around to help you, he said. Look around all you want. I'm going now, Kate said, trying to make her voice sound steady, and he reached for her. Yikes. Well, I don't think we can leave it there. Let's read one more chapter, chapter 19, after some coffee. Okay. All right, Kate. Kate tried to duck away, but no good. The man just grabbed the back of her hoodie. She tried to scream, same as before. Nothing came out. Knit cap pulled harder on the hoodie, spun her around toward him, and that's when Kate saw the jogger reappear around the corner. Only he wasn't jogging. You couldn't even call this running. He was moving way too fast. Kate tried to look away, didn't want Knit cap to see her staring. Didn't want him to know they were no longer alone, knowing there was only one person this could be. And there's a pause. I'll take another cup of coffee. Who do you think it is? Let's see. Zach hadn't told Kate about all of his new powers, mainly because he was still figuring them out. One thing he had definitely noticed, though, his senses had suddenly been improved a lot. His eyesight, which had always been solid when he was reading an eye chart, was off the charts now, sharper than high def. He was sure that this is why his jump shot was suddenly better than ever in basketball. But this morning it had been his hearing that had gotten him going. Zach had heard Kate on the stairs, even though she had done an expert job of sneaking down. He'd also heard the elevator opening and closing as though the door were right next to his bed. He saw the time and the glowing numbers of his clock radio and wondered where she could be going at 6 a.m. He didn't like it. He went to the balcony and saw her with Mitch, the doorman. He saw her head up Fifth Avenue. Zach didn't wait. He threw on his jeans and fleece jacket and sneakers. Not even waiting for the elevator, taking the back stairs and taking them fast. He followed Kate at a distance, wondering where the girl who could sleep until noon, if you let her, was going so early in the morning. He figured the mystery was solved when she went into Starbucks and emerged a few minutes later with a giant cup of what he knew had to be hot chocolate. He waited for her to turn back home, only she didn't. And now Zach wondered if he was developing a sixth sense, because he knew exactly where she was going. Like she was the one who needed to test herself in the park the way he had. He stayed a block behind and out of sight, watched her cut into the park past the Met, watched her go up the steps and take a left. Walking toward the maintenance building, Zach kept his eyes on her, was ready to dart off the path a couple of times when she stopped and looked behind her. She almost caught him once, so he started jogging in the other direction. When he looked back, he saw that Kate was no longer alone, and even from a couple of 100 yards away, Zach could see who was with her on the track. He saw the guy pulling Kate by her hood and was sure he could hear her silent scream. And Zach Harriman was on the move. So it was Zach. Interesting. Wow. Action-packed. Let's wait until tomorrow to see what Zach does. I bet it's intense. I know it's a tough place to stop, but I want your mind to wander. I want you to come up with ideas of what you think it is. And maybe we can figure out who this knit cat person is as well. I hope you're enjoying the story. I'll see you tomorrow. You gonna be on the couch all day?